Oh, come on. Oh.
Apparently, you've just gone live.
Yay!
I've just had a notification from Facebook saying you've just gone live.
Excellent. Right.
So it is working.
It's working.
Right.
Yay!
We got there in the end.
Technology cannot defeat me. I refuse to allow technology to defeat me. Hi, Love Sales Hate Selling crew. It's Nigel here. Me and Martin Warrilow, the Warrior, we're finally managed to get live. We did have a little bit of a technical issue with one of the bits of software I've been using. I actually think it was Martin's computer, as it was built before 2000. But hey,
very probably, yeah.
We won't get into that. So we're actually going live through Zoom, guys. So I don't know if you're aware, but you can do a live using Zoom and do a screen share and record it. Wow. You know, look at what this corona crisis has taught us or made us have to do. But
I've said this so many times over the last couple of days, Nigel.
Yeah.
The people that are going to survive this are the people that are going to think outside the box.
Absolutely. But I'd like to welcome Martin Warrilow today to our little group. And Martin, thank you so much for kind of being here, taking part. As you probably made aware by young Charnel, this is something that I try and do often, is get a business owner on and just kind of get some information, find out how things are going, find out how we can help, find out how you can help us. But I'd like to start off, Martin, because a lot of people won't know who you are. So what do you do, Martin Warrilow, the Warrior? What's your business?
I scare people.
What?
I scare people because I had a stroke at the age of 49 in 2013, which was caused entirely by work stress. And I was one of those people before I had that who thought strokes don't happen to 49-year-olds. Strokes happen to your 80-year-old gran with dementia. And I know that that's very much not true now. I know 13-year-olds who've had strokes. I know 3-year-olds who've had strokes. So that's why I say I scare people.
Yeah.
And I do that. I do that through my blog, my podcast, my Facebook group, and I also do public speaking. And although I'm not doing much of that at the moment, as you can imagine.
So when you say you scare people, I mean, expand on that. What do you kind of do to? I suppose when you say scare, you mean shock. I suppose give them a realization. I mean, what are the kind of the methods you do to do that?
Yeah, it is. It's shocking people because people never think this is going to happen to them.
Yeah.
People always think they're invincible.
Yeah.
They're never going to have a stroke. They're never going to have a heart attack. They're never suddenly going to keel over in the street like I did. And my method is to tell them their story, to tell them my story.
Yeah.
To tell them, look, this happened to me. Yeah. I was a perfectly fit, so I thought, 49-year-old, and I keeled over in the street. Yes, it can happen to you. If you haven't got a good work-life balance, if you don't eat properly, if you don't sleep properly, if you don't have a proper work-life balance, if you're overstressed, then yes, this could massively happen to you. Because mine, as I said, was stress. I mean, my blood pressure must have been absolutely through the roof when this happened to me. Because when I was taken into hospital, all they did was just put me in a side room and take my blood pressure 4 times a day. So my blood pressure must have been astronomical, and I've heard of stroke survivors who have had blood pressure in the 200s. And if you don't know the blood pressure measure, it should normally be somewhere around 170.
200. Good grief.
I've heard of people who have had blood pressure of 220.
I mean, even some of the things that you said regarding the causes of stroke, no work-life balance, not eating properly, lots of stress. I mean, I think you're pretty much talking about 90% of self-employed business owners right now.
And yet, if you say to a self-employed person, "Are you stressed?" they will almost certainly say they're not, because they think they are dealing with it.
Yeah, but
And
I suppose the thing is though, and we are coming out of an age where we were taught, in inverted commas, to get on with it, to be strong,
yeah,
to not, these things, just get on with it and cope. And I think with the kind of the awareness now around mental health, stress, and all those things, it can only be a good thing. But I suppose when you work for yourself, you create your own stress.
well, someone said to me a while ago that it's not just the long hours,
Yeah,
although the long hours don't help. It's the constant thinking about the business.
yeah,
It's the constant thinking about where's the next customer coming from,
yeah,
where's my next project.
yeah,
It's that kind of stuff
yeah,
that
yeah.
causes the stress. It's not just all that stuff I talked about earlier.
And do you help people with those kind of areas? So if someone came to you and says, look, I'm stressed, I've heard your story, um, is there anything you can do to help me? Have you kind of got things available, courses, programs, whatever? Can you refer them to people, or maybe do it yourself and help those people?
I can refer. I have contacts with all the stroke charities who are very good at helping people to deal with this kind of stuff. What I say to them, and what I say to a lot of self-employed people who are not very good at this, the first thing you've got to do is learn to say no. To say no to
Yeah,
potential customers,
yeah,
because self-employed people are very good at constantly saying yes to the new piece of business without realizing that the stress that's going to cause them.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I can tell you a story about someone that I met 6-9 months ago who came
yeah,
to see me,
yeah,
who was massively stressed on the verge of a breakdown,
yeah,
and he was like doing all the wrong things. He was like phone on all the time, emails on all the time, working over the weekend. You know, if someone rang him and said at 9 o'clock at night and said, "Can I have this order by 9 o'clock the following morning?" he'd do it.
uh,
And I said to him, "Look, you've got to change this. You've got to get your work-life balance off. It's phones off
yeah,
at night. It's emails off at night.
yeah,
It's work weekends are for the kids
yeah.
and the family." And I saw him about 6 months later, and he looked 1,000,000% better.
Brilliant.
And I said, "What have you done?" And he said, "I've learned to say no."
There's a
If
song
that
in
if
there
that
somewhere.
if that person rings me up at 9 o'clock at night now and wants the order at 9 o'clock the following morning,
Yeah,
they can get lost.
yeah, yeah,
It's not
yeah.
happening.
Absolutely, mate. There's actually a song in there somewhere, isn't there? Just say no. I'm sure it came out in the 80s, but
Yeah,
you could remix that as your mantra for business
yeah,
owners. Just say no,
yeah,
no.
yeah, indeed.
Seriously. Hey,
Yeah,
I'm going to write this down. I want some commission off that if you do decide to re-record it.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's really powerful, Martin. And I mean, one of the things I would probably have said to you is, um, speak to that guy, ask him if he'll do a testimonial, just kind of, say that, look, some of the advice that you gave me put into place, and
yeah,
now he feels better for it, because that's so powerful.
yeah,
I have stress. Everybody has stress. My way of dealing with stress is to kind of, I suppose, go into myself and
mm.
search for the answers internally. But I know when I'm hitting those levels what I need to do, and but a lot of people can't really cope. Who's that saying I'm showing my age? Charnel Simcock. I tell you what, she's a cheeky young man. Hey, listen here, right? I reckon you've got the 12-inch of that song. Just say no. So I'm not saying anything else. Anyway. So I suppose well, I was going to say, what's your inspiration? But I would imagine that the journey that you've gone through has been your inspiration for you to start this business.
Well, my inspiration was having the stroke. My inspiration was having an artery burst in my brain when I was crossing the road one day and nearly being run over by a bus, which
Yeah,
ended my career at the age of 49. And then when I'd been a journalist for 30 years. When you hear that your career is over at 49 for a million different reasons, you can either sit and look at the walls for the rest of your life, or you can do something positive with it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I decided to do something positive with it, which is where the blog came from, and in more recent times the podcast and the Facebook group. And
So
I always look at it now and think, if I can stop one person
yeah,
ending up like I am
yeah,
on a walking stick, out of work at 49, with all the million of problems I've got, then I'm doing that. That's what I do it for.
How, because obviously you had the stroke, you'd have had to go through recovery, a bit of, I suppose, rehabilitation, whatever. How long was it after the stroke before you then decided, right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to educate the rest of the world about the dangers of stress? What was the kind of
Well,
time scale?
I was in a wheelchair for 4 months. I was housebound for 8 months. So it was probably something like a year afterwards, because for those 8 months I was just concentrating on getting my body back together.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course,
being able to walk more than 5 yards,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
and that took an awful lot of work. So I would say it was something like about a year.
And I've got to say, mate, you're inspirational because you've turned adversity and you've turned it on its head, and you're using it, not even to your advantage, you're using it to help others. And having experienced stroke myself in my family, my granddad had a stroke, but my granddad didn't seek help. Very proud man. So when the some ladies turned up from social services to take him to a community centre to do some rehabilitation, he was like, "No, mommy, now go, no, sir." You know what I mean? But you couldn't understand him. So it sounded more like, but they understood the two fingers that he gave them, and he never went back. But because of that, he really struggled to get integrated back into the family, and you could see that it was very hard for him because he lost, what he had. And I think knowing you and knowing what you've done, mate, absolutely inspirational, and just find a way of making sure more people know what your message is and help them.
Well, I've always been a very proactive person. I've always wanted to go out and do things and start things and be involved in things.
Yeah.
So the idea of sitting at home and looking at the walls for 30 years was not really ever going to happen. It was just a case of finding how the ways in which I could help.
Yeah.
And I was looking to have people around me that could help me to do that.
Brilliant. Excellent, mate. So, what's been some of your biggest challenges with the business, with what you're doing now, with your message that you're getting now? What's been some of the biggest challenges you've come across?
My biggest challenge is money, because I'm retired.
Yeah.
I'm living on my pension. I had to take anybody that's been involved in financial things will tell you that retiring at the age of 49 and drawing your pension is not really what you want to do. And I had to take a huge hit on my pension to take it, but I'd gotten over the way of bringing any money in.
And
I'm also on disability benefits because of my disabilities. So money has been the biggest issue, because setting up a podcast, doing all the stuff I do, it costs, and that money is coming out of my pocket. And when you're on a fixed income, that's not ideal. The biggest, I've got other things I would like to do, but they all cost money, and that's been the biggest challenge is finding the money to do it, because people are interested, and people want to hear my story, but do they want to pay you for it? No, they don't.
Okay. Well, do they or don't they? I suppose, is it the story that they won't pay for, or the advice and knowledge that you give them? Because there's two different things there, isn't there? And
there is, but I think it's both. I think that they don't value, because they don't think it's ever going to happen to them. They're not that interested.
I think you'll find right now, sir, that more people believe that the impossible will happen than at any time in our lifetimes.
Absolutely.
If you think of where we are right now, and there'll be people sat at home right now, stressed out of their heads, putting their own health at risk because they can't see tomorrow or they can't see next week. And I think, some wise words from a man like yourself would definitely help. Have you thought of maybe doing a book, Martin?
Yes, that's on the way. Well, it's being dealt with at the moment.
Excellent.
There's a very nice young lady called Chanel Simcock who's helping me with it.
Oh, yeah. Trouble caused the mate. Called us old, she did. I'm not even speaking to her again.
Yeah, but she's very good, though. But yes, I think what's happening now is going to be a sea change in our society, because, the stuff I always talk about with the life-changing event that will always happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
well, here it is happening to us now.
Absolutely. It is. I mean, I've had a few moments this week and last week, where I've actually spoken to people, and they've literally broke down on the phone, because for them this is, it's the unknown. It's the end of the world for them as far as they're concerned, and there's so many people going through so much emotion at the moment. Different levels of emotion. You've got anger, suspicion, despair, and it's a scary time. And but I think what your story shows people is that when things happen, you can turn it to your advantage. You can make a better situation than what you are supposed to have based on what the experts say. So
it's mindset. I mean, stroke rehabilitation is very much mindset. Yeah. If you think you can do something, you'll do it.
Yeah.
If you don't think you can do it, then you won't do it.
Yeah.
And that's very much the case for a lot of people at the moment that are obviously struggling with their business.
Yeah.
And they can't see a way out of it.
Yeah.
There is a way out of it, but you just got to look for it in perhaps a different way.
Yeah. And which leads me actually onto my next question, which was if somebody was crazy enough right now to set up a business, hey, people have done it. Anyone, you can build a website and get it set up and you're in business. But what advice would you give somebody who's looking to set up a business, in 2020?
It would be to not try and do it all yourself. Outsource as much as you possibly can. Because when I set up my business, I was one of these people who thought, right, I'm a journalist, I'm good at that, I can be a freelance. But you don't think about all the stuff like talking to the tax man and marketing and the social media and all the other stuff that you haven't got the faintest idea about. So get someone in who can help you get your head around that.
Yeah.
And if it costs, then it costs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your business isn't going to work. Yeah. And that was one of the biggest lessons I learned when I was starting my own business.
Yeah.
And I did get help, but it was too late.
Yeah.
And I that's the biggest lesson I would say now.
And you know something, there's a common theme, because I think me and Pete pretty much said the same thing. Me and Natasha Gordon said the same thing. You're absolutely right. As a business owner, we want to keep control of the purse strings, and we think, I'm not spending that money there, because if you look at the time that you spend on these tasks which are a pain in the bum and you don't like doing, that is so much better spent doing the things that you do like doing. And I mean, we both spoke about this lady called Charnel. I mean, I'll be honest, she came on board with me last year, and things have just gone crazy ever since. And because she's a bit of an accountability buddy as well and kicks me up the backside, things happen. Why are we doing this? Because it's part of the bigger plan. But I wouldn't have been able to do this if I hadn't got that help in from Charnel, because I'd be too busy then thinking about posts and what should I do next, and so on and so forth. So it's opened up a whole world for me to be able to do more. So absolutely complete advocate of that, mate, of getting other on to do this stuff. But the other thing I also believe in as well, though, is that if a business owner does have the time to learn the knowledge around what he wants to do. So for argument's sake, if a business owner wants to do social media, rather than just say, I'll pay someone to do it, I advocate that business owner learning about social media themselves. So even though they're not going to do it themselves, they understand what goes into it, because then there's that little bit more common ground and respect. Because I've got fair few social media clients, and they seem to think that, this Facebook thing, it takes you 5 minutes. It does. Really? do they understand content creation and try to think of something different to say every day of the week, and in some cases 7 times a day? It's like, wow. So absolutely. But I'm a big advocate of individuals learning skills. At least if you know what's being done, then you don't mind paying for it, because you understand the work that goes into it. Okay, we're going to wrap up. I've got one more question for you, Martin. Is there anything that the group can help you with right now? If there's one thing that we could do for you, what would it be? Or several things?
3 weeks ago, I would have said, "Give me a public speaking opportunity," but
Maybe
not
still
now.
can.
But not now.
Yeah.
When this is all over, public
Yeah.
speaking opportunities would be ideal, because I find a lot of the time that people are interested in what I have to say,
Yeah.
but as soon as you say, "Well, I'd like to get paid for it," they run out the door.
I suppose it depends who you're speaking to. The thing is, within this group, there are quite a few people who do public speaking and do have platforms for you to do public speaking.
Yeah.
I don't think that ambition is that far away. I think what you maybe need to think of is it's going to happen anyway, but you need to decide what you want your end goal to be after you've done it. So if your end goal is for people to go back to your website to buy a book, or to go back to your website to download a report, or to go back to your website to buy merchandise, if you can kind of set up a system that way, it doesn't necessarily matter about getting paid up front. Because if once you've done the talk, people are like, bloody hell, that Martin Warrilow, his website, boom, bam, push, I'm going to get his book, that is much
there's money
better.
coming in other ways, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Plus, what you're then doing is, rather than one person seeing your value, you've got a whole room of people seeing your value. So rather than having, I've been paid, but no one went to my website because it wasn't set up or everything else. I've not been paid, but off the back of this, I've had 100 views to my website. I've sold 10 books. 14 of my t-shirts went out, and I sold a couple of mugs as well. Oh, and I've got another speaking gig. Which one's better? So sometimes it's best to kind of look at, well, what's the big return as opposed to what's the short-term return.
Have I mentioned the website yet?
No, you haven't, but you better do.
It's the website is askthewarrior.com.
I'm going to put it in the comments now. askthewarrior.com.
Yep, and the podcast is thewarriorpodcast.libsyn.com.
The Warrior Podcast
libsyn.com.
libsyn.com. What a crazy name. The Warrior Podcast. Is the Warrior Podcast, is it all one word?
Yep.
Let me just make sure I just type this right. warriorpodcast.libsyn.com.
Yep. And the Facebook group is unsurprisingly called The Warrior.
Will that come up, I wonder? Oh, I think young Charnel has put it in there today, actually. She's just put it in. So, she's organised, she is, isn't she?
She's good, isn't she?
I tell you what. Hey, if I weren't so selfish, I'd recommend her to others.
Absolutely, yeah.
She's mine. I'm not sharing. Martin, absolutely fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely inspirational. I think, we're living in crazy times now, and your adversity that you've gone through and you've come out the other side, and you've got on and you're doing things, kind of shows that, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Most certainly, I will do all I can to support you in terms of, telling people about, they've got to hear your story. Is there any kind of time scale on this book yet? I mean, how far away are we from having it published and ready?
I would like to think fairly soon, but fairly soon there are other things to do. Yeah. And I am limited in the amount of time that I can devote to things because of my health.
Of course. Because
I suffer quite badly with stroke fatigue. So if I have a busy day, and today has been a really busy day, then tomorrow has to be an absolutely, lay in bed day. Otherwise, my brain just melts.
We perhaps need to speak about some processes, man. I've got a cunning plan, sir. A plan so cunning you could pin a tail on it and call it a fox. I love Blackadder. Right, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Absolutely brilliant, guys. If anyone got any questions before I let Martin go, now's your time. In fact, I think what happens with Facebook is that they're slightly behind us.
Right.
There's a bit of a delay, so I'll see if anything comes through now. And well, no, mate, thank you very much for today. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. How many blogs have you got on your website?
Oh, millions.
Seriously?
Seriously, I've been writing this blog for about 4 years. So it's big. There's a lot there.
And what's your call to action at the moment?
My call to action is probably the book that we're working on. But yeah, I do need a better call to action.
Because right now, if you haven't got that CTA, it's dead traffic.
Yeah.
So most certainly, let's have a conversation. Well, once you've got your book done, let's have a conversation. See if there's something we can do about driving more engagement there. Because
we're obviously Chanel and I are having conversations all the time, and we were hoping to get together personally, face to face, fairly soon, which has had to be put on hold because of this. So there's lots of things that need doing after this, but this is just destroying it.
Get your main one done. Get the one which will either give you exposure awareness or money. Get that done, and then at least if you've got that done, you can then it's done. Then once it's done, it's done. You can then start on all the others. And we'll have a talk about that. But Martin, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And if there's anything that I can do to help in the future, give us a shout. Any questions you want to ask in the group, feel free. If there's a bit of technology that you're hating right now, and you think, oh, I need help. We have the answers to all the questions in this group, believe it or not.
Okay.
So thank you, Martin. Thanks so much for your time, mate. And you take care.
Okay. Cheers, Nigel.
See you soon. Take care. Bye now. Bye.